Welcome to Sheep Suit, the home of grazeable Christian thought. Today's Brain Graze, your church isn't God. Well, of course it isn't. Doesn't everyone know that? Well, when you put it like that, likely everyone does, but they don't act like that. Some people act like their church is God when something bad happens at their church, and they blame it on God. And then they use this as an excuse to purposely spend their entire lives not serving God. Either they give up on their faith completely or they become an NPC, a non-productive Christian. Sure, they go to church, they sit through the show, they worship, they avoid really awful sins, they marry Christians and may spend their lives believing at some level. But there's always this excuse for not going further than the minimum involvement they think is required, and they have no interest in God's ultimate mission for Christians, which I believe is to find the good works that God has set apart for them to do, and to do them. See Ephesians towards the beginning. One way this happens is when a person joins a church that turns out to be a cult. They have this initial experience of discovering this fantastic spiritual group of people, perhaps led by a very spiritual looking and charismatic person, and later that person turns out to be an abusive nut, and some unpleasant things happen with some members, or the abusive nut, and this person leaves the church perhaps worse off than when they joined. That leaves a bitter taste in the brain and some bitter feelings for sure, and that's understandable. But some people blame God for this and decide never to serve God again, as if churches were God, when in fact they are organizations made up of people. And just like every person has a character, every organization of people has character too. Or I went to church and they just turned out to be a bunch of hypocrites. So now I can be one too, right? Or that pastor let me down, so I quit. That pastor messed up. So all of Christianity is invalid and I have an excuse to not have to deal with it ever again. Well, pastors are people. And if you are a Christian, you are supposed to be worshiping and serving God, not a pastor. The word pastor means shepherd, not God on earth. And I found the vast majority aren't even shepherds anymore. They're more like game show masters of ceremonies on Sunday morning and business administrators, event organizers, entrepreneurs for their own interests, and who knows what else during the week. We're not supposed to know what they do all week, it seems. But you get the idea. A person at a church or a church group does something that discourages a Christian to the point where they use it as an excuse to never go out of their way to serve God. And I think that on the day of judgment, that's just going to be an excuse, but it won't excuse a life of taking from God, but never giving back. That's all for now. Keep the wool out of your eyes.